Imagine if you didn't have to sprint to the waiver wire this last week and compete with your league mates to make sure you got a guy like Trey Benson on your roster, or even take it back a week prior, a guy like Brashard Smith, or even take it back years prior, a guy like Puka Nacua, who ended up becoming a massive league winner in fantasy football. What if you had the foresight to know to roster these players before they became valuable fantasy assets? Today, we're going to help you with exactly that. My name is Lucas Wencl here with FantasyPros, bringing you my top 5 waiver wire stashes ahead of week 4 and next week's waiver run as well. Before we dive on into that list of players, though, we've got a special deal going on for you all. Get 1 month of Betting Pros Premium for 100% free. Download the Betting Pros app today and use promo code FP1month. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out. Try it free for 1 month now, available both on iOS and Android. All right, the first player on our list this week is Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back for the Washington Commanders, who's rostered in 23% of leagues. Now, even though this backfield is a twisted mess between Chris Rodriguez, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, and Jeremy McNichols, I do think Rodriguez still has a role here. You take a look at week 3 versus the Raiders in terms of the snap counts. Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt did play the most with 23. Chris Rodriguez was right behind him with 22. Jeremy McNichols played 15. But in terms of rush attempts, Chris Rodriguez had 11. Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt then only had 8. And Jeremy McNichols had 4, despite 1 explosive run throughout the course of this game as well. But the other interesting thing I want to pull from week 3 is the way in which these Washington Commanders running backs were rotated throughout the course of the game. Hayden Winks had put out a great chart on Twitter, essentially displaying that through the entire first quarter, Chris Rodriguez was the only running back to touch the field. That's essentially what the Commanders were doing with Austin Eckler before he tore his Achilles, right? Use him early and often, then have Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt enter the game plan. But even once Bill got in and became the Commanders' primary running back the rest of the game, he didn't give you lead running back numbers. He was only 8 for 26 and 1 reception, even with a touchdown. That's just so uninspiring to me when your competition is Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Jeremy McNichols, right? So I'm not going to pitch you that Chris Rodriguez is this deep league winner. He can take over this backfield. But I think the Commanders realize there's a lot of areas in which Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt needs to grow in first. And I think that will lead to continued involvement for Chris Rodriguez here. So I'm willing to stash him at the end of my bench on the upside that he does continue to remain involved early and often in the game plan. The second player on our list this week is Carolina Panthers wide receiver Jalen Coker, who's rostered in 12% of leagues. The reports out there say that Jalen Coker is still week to week with his quad injury, but as soon as there is any positive report about him returning to practice or even having a more concrete timeline, everybody is going to want back in because, my goodness, does this Panthers passing attack need a spark? The passing game wasn't necessarily needed against the Falcons, right? 30-0 blowout last week. But outside of Tetairoa McMillan, the Panthers need somebody else to step up in future weeks. I will not let you all forget so quickly that Xavier Legette became the second player in NFL history 2 weeks ago to finish a game with less than 0 receiving yards on 8+ targets. Less than 0. We're talking negative receiving yards. Hunter Renfrow, he's fine. He had a really nice game against the Cardinals. 7 of 9 targets he caught for 2 scores. But don't forget, Hunter Renfrow was cut for Jalen Coker to play the slot role for this team. Jalen Coker from the slot last year was phenomenal. On the 20 targets he earned, he ran 2.65 yards per route. That was 7th best last year behind some very notable names. Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., Terry McLaurin. That's good company to keep. Now, compare that to the aforementioned Xavier Legette. He drew 64 targets from the slot, but still managed to collect 135 yards less than Jalen Coker did. The last thing I will remind you all about Jalen Coker, though, is that he succeeded against almost all coverage types last season, despite going undrafted in the NFL draft. Reception perception charted him out with a 70% plus success rate against press, man coverage, and zone coverage last year. The icing on the cake and all that, too, is that he ran the second most yards per route of the 2024 draft class wide receivers against man coverage. Even though we still might have 2 to 3 weeks until Jalen Coker returns, he is 100% worth stashing on your empty IR spot if you have one available right now. So I would say make the move before your league mates realize he's probably still available in your league, And once we get that more concrete timeline, they're already going to be looking on their waiver wire by then. Next up on our list is Kansas City Chiefs running back Brashard Smith, who's rostered in 6% of leagues. Now, I don't have a hard-hitting, analytically deep reason as to why you should be stashing Brashard Smith, but I do have a reason looking at the nature of this Chiefs backfield. Isaiah Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt have just been so uninspiring, even against a Giants defense that has struggled against the run this year. Pacheco was 10 for 45, which was like clearly his best outing of the year. He had a top 25 yards in the 2 weeks prior. And Kareem Hunt, 10 for 34. He did have a score, but man, against the Giants, you really want to have better than 3.4 yards per carry. And Brashard Smith did have 2 carries for 13 yards. But I have to imagine at some point, Andy Reid is going to look at this running back room and think, how in the world can I get more explosives from this group? And I do think it should be the wide receiver converted running back out of SMU, Brashard Smith. He has great pass catching chops, right? He runs with suddenness and changes gears extremely well, but most importantly, he is dynamic once he gets to the perimeter or hits the second level of the defense. Go back and look at Isaiah Pacheco's rookie season, who was also a 7th round rookie draft pick. He did have a strong week 1, 62 yards and a score on 12 totes, but immediately in week 2, he went back down to 9% of the snaps. We saw 8% of the snaps in week 3 for Pacheco, 3% of the snaps in week 5 of his rookie season. It was only after the Chiefs' week 8 bye that year when Andy Reid quit messing around and gave us the Isaiah Pacheco show rest of season, which produced fantasy gold, right? What if that's the trajectory we're actually on with Brashard Smith here? Because you can't watch this backfield and tell me that either of Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt are giving this offense enough juice. You just simply can't tell me that. This won't be an instant impact stash for Brashard Smith, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see his snaps increase week over week here coming up over the next few weeks. Fourth on our list this week is Parker Washington, Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver, who is rostered in 4% of leagues. Maybe I'm chasing volume on this one, maybe I'm not, but after getting 11 targets last week, he has my attention. I think I'm willing to throw him on the end of my bench as a stash. The reason we got more Parker Washington last week was because Dyami Brown left with a shoulder injury in this game. And as of this recording, Dyami Brown has yet to practice this week, and it looks like he might be out for week 4 as well. But as a result of Dyami Brown exiting early, Parker Washington only played 7 less snaps than Brian Thomas Jr. He ran only 3 less routes, and he actually out-targeted Brian Thomas Jr. Now, I am not going to tell you that's sticky on a week-to-week basis, but Dyami Brown was out on the field for nearly 80% of the team's snaps in 2 and 3 wide receiver sets. It's not Travis Hunter who's getting that 2 wide receiver set usage. He's almost exclusively reserved for 11 personnel right now because the Jaguars are needing to stretch him on the defensive side of the ball. But maybe the big kicker in all of this, and I don't know if this is a selling point, but clearly the Jaguars are still trying to put the pieces of this offense together. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been as accurate as he needs to be. Brian Thomas, he's having drops and concentration issues, right? This Liam Cohen system can work, but the pieces are just now starting to come together. If we do get a semblance of anything that we saw in Tampa Bay last year, like Parker Washington could find some long-term relevance in fantasy outside of Dyami Brown even missing time. But should Dyami Brown miss extended time, or shoot, even Brian Thomas Jr. for that matter, like it's clear Parker Washington is the next man up, and I'm still willing to throw darts on the upside of this Liam Cohen offense. The last player on our list this week, for those of you in deep leagues or tight end sickos like me, how about Oronde Gadsden, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers, who is rostered in 6% of leagues. If you've watched my stash videos before, you know I refer to the tight end position as a vast, desolate wasteland in fantasy football. So when I see glimmers of hope in the desert, I tend to gravitate towards them. Will Dissly sat out in week 3 due to a knee injury, which cleared the way for Gadsden to make his season debut. And look, he sure made the most of it, right? Now, it was still a 3-man rotation for this group without Will Dissly. Tucker Fisk played 29 snaps. Tyler Conklin had 22. But Oronde Gadsden wasn't too far behind. He did have 21 snaps in this game. The kicker here, though, there was zero competition for who earned targets out of this tight end group. Tucker Fisk had 0. Tyler Conklin drew 2. But it was Gadsden who drew 7 targets in this game. He caught 5 of them for 48 yards. It's nothing huge, but that was good enough for the tight end 14 in PPR formats, right? There is a glimmer of hope here. Jim Harbaugh has already said that Gadsden is going to, quote, get in more. And with how pass heavy this offense is right now, I'm extremely interested in that. We all thought Greg Roman was going to kind of rinse and repeat what he's typically done on offense, lean into the run game, dominate the line of scrimmage. It's what we've been accustomed to with his offenses. But now to start the year, the Chargers have led the league in neutral pass rate and pass rate over expected. So they woke up, finally realized how phenomenal of a quarterback Justin Herbert is, and they're just letting him sling it around the yard right now. I know 1 week is hardly a sample here with Oronde Gadsden, right? But for those of you in deep, deep leagues who really, really need help at the tight end position, you could be potentially getting a massive jump on a high upside tight end in a pass-happy offense right now. Like, those don't just grow on trees. So if you really do need a tight end right now, I'm willing to stash Oronde Gadsden. Alrighty, and there you have it, my top 5 waiver wire stashes ahead of week 4. Go sprint to your waiver wire like right now and check if these guys are still available in your league. They're rostered in 30% or less of leagues, so they should still be available in yours. But before we sign off here, remember, we've got a special deal for you all right now. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. Download the Betting Pros app today and use promo code FP1month. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out. Try it free, 100% free for 1 month now. It's available both on iOS and Android.